Welcome to the Sleepy Historian. Tonight, we are going to talk about the Silk Road, that ancient network of trade routes that connected east and west for over 1,000 years. Close your eyes and let yourself drift back through time, back to an era when the world was vast and mysterious, when journeys took months or years, and when the simple act of carrying goods from one land to another could change the course of history. Picture, if you will, the gentle morning light filtering through the latticed windows of a Han Dynasty palace in Chang'an, modern-day Qian. The year is 138 BCE, and the air carries the scent of jasmine and the distant sound of temple bells. In this peaceful moment, a young Chinese envoy named Zhang prepares for a journey that will unknowingly set in motion one of history's greatest networks of cultural exchange. Zhang moves slowly through the palace corridors, his silk robes whispering against the polished stone floors. He has been chosen by Emperor Wu to undertake a diplomatic mission to the far western lands, to seek allies against the nomadic Xiongnu who trouble China's northern borders. But as he walks through the morning shadows, Zhang cannot imagine that his journey will do far more than secure military alliances. He cannot foresee that his footsteps will help trace the first faint lines of what will become the Silk Road. The preparations for Zhang Qian's expedition unfold with the careful precision of a ritual. Servants pack provisions into leather satchels, their movements deliberate and quiet. Horses are selected for their endurance, their coats brushed until they gleam like polished bronze in the dawn light. The expedition party assembles in the courtyard as the sun rises higher, casting long shadows across the flagstones. Zhang Qian's journey begins gently, the horses' hooves creating a rhythmic percussion against the earth as they leave the familiar walls of Chang'an behind. The Chinese countryside rolls past them like a painted scroll, terraced fields giving way to grasslands, then to the foothills of mountains that seem to stretch endlessly westward. The expedition moves at a leisurely pace, allowing the landscape to gradually transform around them. As they travel deeper into the western territories, the familiar architecture of Han China slowly gives way to something different. The rounded yurts of nomadic peoples dot the horizon like scattered pearls. The very air seems to change, carrying new scents of unfamiliar herbs and distant cooking fires. Zhang breathes deeply, sensing that he is moving not just through space, but through different ways of life, different understandings of the world. Days blend into weeks as the expedition continues westward. The landscape becomes more dramatic, with towering peaks that catch the morning light and hold it like cupped hands. Rivers run swift and clear, their surfaces reflecting the ever-changing sky. At night, the stars seem closer and more brilliant than they ever did in China, as if the very heavens are different in these western lands. The expedition encounters various peoples along the way, each meeting unfolding like a gentle dance of diplomacy. There are the horse-loving tribes of the steppes who move with their herds across vast grasslands, their lives following the ancient rhythms of the seasons. Zhang observes their skill with horses, noting how they seem to become one with their mounts, flowing across the landscape with effortless grace. In the valleys between mountain ranges, they find settled communities where people tend orchards and vineyards, their faces weathered by sun and wind, but kind in their curiosity about these travelers from the far east. the local people share their simple meals of bread and fermented mare's milk, and in the evenings they tell stories by firelight, their voices rising and falling like music. Zhang Qian's journey leads him eventually to the kingdom of Dunhuang, known for its heavenly horses, and then to Bactria, where Greek influences mingle with local traditions in a fascinating cultural blend. The cities he encounters are unlike anything in China, with their distinctive architecture and the musical sound of unfamiliar languages. Markets buzz with quiet activity, filled with goods that seem to come from every corner of the known world. In Bactria, Zhang Qian makes a discovery that will echo through history. Among the goods in the local markets, he finds Chinese silk, bamboo, and other products that have somehow travelled here through what the merchants call the southern routes. The realization dawns on him slowly, like sunrise spreading across a valley. There are already trade connections between China and these distant lands, pathways that goods follow, even without official diplomatic relations. The return journey takes Zhang Qian through different routes, allowing him to observe even more of the vast network of peoples and places that lie between China and the Western kingdoms. He travels through the edge of the Tarim Basin, where oasis cities shine like jewels in the desert, their date palms and flowing water sources providing welcome respite for travelers. When Zhang Qian finally returns to Chang'an after 13 long years, he brings with him more than just diplomatic intelligence. He carries stories of distant lands, descriptions of new crops and animals, and most importantly, knowledge of the routes that connect China to the wider world. His report to Emperor Wu is delivered in the same gentle morning light that saw his departure. But now the words he speaks will help shape the future of international trade. The emperor listens with growing interest as Zhang Qian describes the western regions, the potential for trade, and the routes that goods might follow. The vision that emerges from their conversation is one of peaceful exchange, of Chinese goods flowing westward, while exotic products from distant lands find their way to China. It is a vision that will gradually transform from dream to reality. In the years following Zhang Qian's return, Chinese merchants begin to venture westward with increasing frequency. They travel in small groups at first, their caravans modest affairs carrying silk, tea, and other Chinese specialties. The routes they follow are not yet the grand highways they will become, but rather tentative pathways marked by the experiences of previous travelers. The early Chinese merchants who brave these western routes do so with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. They know they are entering unknown territory, lands where the customs and languages are foreign, where the very concept of distance takes on new meaning. But they are drawn by the promise of profit and the allure of the unknown. These pioneering traders establish the first regular connections between China and the western oasis cities. They learn to navigate by the stars, to read the subtle signs of weather and terrain, to negotiate with local guides and translators. Their journeys become part of a growing body of knowledge about the routes, the peoples, and the opportunities that lie along the way. The goods they carry westward are carefully chosen for their value and portability. Silk, of course, is prized throughout the known world for its beauty and rarity. Chinese tea, still unknown in the West, begins to find its way into the hands of curious merchants. Porcelain, lacquerware, and other uniquely Chinese products slowly spread along the trade routes. In return, these early merchants bring back goods that amaze and delight the Chinese court and wealthier merchants. There are precious stones from the mountains of Central Asia, their colors more vivid than anything found in China. Spices from the Indian subcontinent add new flavors to Chinese cuisine. Glassware from the Mediterranean, with its clarity and delicate beauty, becomes a prized luxury. But perhaps most importantly, these early traders bring back knowledge. They return with stories of different ways of life, different beliefs and customs, different approaches to art and architecture. This cultural exchange, quiet and gradual at first, will eventually become one of the most significant aspects of the Silk Road network. As the 1st century CE unfolds, the routes between China and the western regions become more established. What was once a dangerous journey into the unknown becomes a recognized, if still challenging, trade route. Caravanserais begin to appear at regular intervals, providing shelter and supplies for travelers. Local guides become more skilled and reliable. The infrastructure of long-distance trade slowly takes shape. The transformation of these early paths into the Great Silk Road network happens gradually, like the slow accumulation of sand that eventually forms a dune. Each journey adds to the collective knowledge of the route. Each successful trade expedition encourages others to follow. Each new connection between peoples creates the potential for future exchanges. The caravans that begin to travel these routes in the early centuries of the Common Era are marvels of organization and patience. Picture a typical caravan preparing to leave Chang'an in the soft light of dawn. The merchants move with quiet efficiency, checking their goods one final time, ensuring that everything is properly packed and secured for the long journey ahead. The camels stand patiently as they are loaded, their calm demeanor belying the incredible journeys they are about to undertake. These remarkable animals, perfectly adapted for desert travel, will become the backbone of Silk Road commerce. Their ability to carry heavy loads across vast distances, to survive on minimal water, and to navigate difficult terrain makes them indispensable to the trade network. As the caravan departs Chang'an, it joins a stream of similar groups, all heading westward toward the frontier. The sight of these processions must have been remarkable, a slow-moving river of people and animals flowing across the landscape. The sound of bells and the soft conversation of travelers mingles with the rhythmic footfalls of the animals, creating a unique music of the road. The first major challenge these caravans face is the passage through the Gansu Corridor, a narrow strip of land between the mountains and the desert that forms a natural gateway to the west. This corridor, with its series of oasis towns and mountain passes, becomes a crucial part of the Silk Road network. Towns like Lanzhou and Dunhuang grow and prosper as they serve the needs of passing caravans. Dunhuang, in particular, becomes a jewel of the Silk Road. Located at the edge of the Taklamakan Desert, it serves as the last major Chinese city before the truly foreign lands beyond. The city develops a unique character, influenced by the constant flow of travelers from many different cultures. Its markets buzz with activity as merchants buy supplies for the desert crossing and sell goods they have brought from distant lands. The caves of Dunhuang, carved into the cliffs outside the city, become a repository of art and knowledge from across the Silk Road network. Buddhist monks, inspired by the stories and teachings brought by travelers, create magnificent murals and sculptures in these caves. The artwork reflects the cosmopolitan nature of the Silk Road, blending Chinese, Indian, Persian, and Central Asian artistic traditions. As caravans prepare to leave Dunhuang for the desert crossing, the atmosphere becomes more serious. The Taklamakan Desert, with its shifting sands and extreme conditions, represents one of the most challenging portions of the entire Silk Road network. Merchants check their water supplies, ensure their camels are in good condition, and make final preparations for the weeks of travel ahead. The desert crossing unfolds like a meditation on patience and endurance. The caravans move slowly across the sand, following ancient routes marked by the bones of previous travelers and the occasional oasis. The landscape seems to stretch endlessly in all directions, an ocean of sand beneath an immense sky. During the day, the sun beats down mercilessly, while at night the temperature drops dramatically, requiring warm clothing and careful management of fuel for fires. The rhythm of desert travel is hypnotic. The steady pace of the camels, the gentle tinkling of bells, the whispered conversations of travelers all combine to create a sense of timelessness. Hours pass without significant change in the landscape, yet the caravan continues its patient progress toward the distant oases. These oases, when they finally appear, seem like miracles rising from the sand. The sight of green palm trees and the sound of flowing water bring immediate relief to travel-weary merchants. Towns like Turfan and Kashgar become crucial stops on the desert route, places where caravans can rest, resupply, and prepare for the next stage of their journey. Turfan, located in a depression below sea level, has a unique character shaped by its geography. The city's ingenious irrigation system, known as Caravans, brings water from distant mountains through underground channels, creating a green oasis in the heart of the desert. The city's markets offer a fascinating mix of goods from across Central Asia, while its inhabitants reflect the multicultural nature of the Silk Road. The journey from Turfan to Kashgar takes caravans through some of the most spectacular scenery on the entire Silk Road. The route follows the southern edge of the Taklamakan Desert, with the towering peaks of the Kunlun Mountains visible to the south. The landscape changes gradually, from pure desert to areas where occasional vegetation appears, then to more hospitable regions where rivers flow down from the mountains. Kashgar, when it finally appears on the horizon, represents a major milestone for eastbound and westbound caravans alike. The city sits at the confluence of several major routes, making it a natural hub for trade and cultural exchange. Its Sunday market, which continues to this day, gives some sense of what these ancient commercial gatherings must have been like. The market in Kashgar unfolds like a tapestry of human activity. Merchants from across Central Asia gather to display their goods, creating a riot of colors, sounds, and smells. Chinese silk merchants stand alongside horse traders from the steppes, while dealers in precious stones negotiate with buyers from distant lands. The air fills with the sound of multiple languages, the complex negotiations of international trade conducted with gestures and broken phrases. From Kashgar, the roots of the Silk Road diverge like branches of a great tree. Some caravans head southwest toward the Indian subcontinent, crossing the high passes of the Karakoram range. Others continue westward toward Persia and the Middle East, following valleys that lead through the Pamir Mountains. Still others head northwest toward the great cities of Central Asia like Samarkand and Bukhara. The route to Samarkand takes caravans through the Fergana Valley, a region famous for its horses and its fertile agricultural land. The valley, with its mild climate and abundant water, seems like paradise after the rigors of the desert crossing. Here, Chinese merchants encounter new crops and agricultural techniques, while local farmers marvel at the exotic goods from distant China. Samarkand itself, when caravans finally reach it, proves to be one of the greatest cities of the ancient world. Located at the confluence of trade routes from China, India, and the Middle East, the city develops a cosmopolitan character that reflects its position at the crossroads of civilizations. Its markets, gardens, and architectural monuments become legendary throughout the known world. The approach to Samarkand is carefully orchestrated, like a theatrical performance. Caravans typically arrive in the early morning, when the city's domes and minarets catch the golden light of dawn. The city walls, massive and imposing, speak of both strength and prosperity. Guards at the gates, accustomed to the arrival of foreign merchants, conduct their inspections with routine efficiency. Inside the city, the streets buzz with activity. Markets specialized in different types of goods create distinct districts within the urban fabric. The silk market, with its displays of lustrous fabrics, attracts merchants from across the known world. The spice bazaar fills the air with exotic aromas, while the metalworkers' quarter rings with the sound of hammers on anvils. But Samarkand is more than just a commercial center. It is a place where ideas, as well as goods, change hands. Scholars from different traditions meet in the city's libraries and schools, exchanging knowledge and debating philosophical questions. Artists and craftsmen learn new techniques from their counterparts from distant lands. The city becomes a laboratory for cultural synthesis. The astronomical observatory of Samarkand, built centuries later, but reflecting the city's long tradition of learning, symbolizes this intellectual exchange. Here, scholars from China, India, Persia, and the Islamic world collaborate on observations of the heavens, their different approaches to mathematics and astronomy, creating new insights and discoveries. From Samarkand, the Silk Road routes continue westward toward the great cities of Persia. The journey takes caravans through landscapes that gradually change from the arid steppes of Central Asia to the more temperate regions of the Iranian plateau. The route passes through cities like Bukhara and Merv, each with its own character and specialties. Bukhara, like Samarkand, develops into a major center of learning and culture. The city's madrasas, or religious schools, attract students from across the Islamic world, while its markets serve as distribution centers for goods moving between Asia and the Middle East. The city's architectural heritage, with its distinctive domes and minarets, reflects the influence of various cultures and periods. The route from Bukhara to the Persian heartland takes caravans through regions that have been crossed by traders for millennia. The Iranian plateau, with its mix of desert, mountains, and fertile valleys, provides a natural corridor between Central Asia and the Mediterranean world. Cities like Isfahan and Tehran, though not yet the great centers they will become, already serve as important stops on the trade network. The Persian Empire, when Silk Road caravans first encounter it, is a vast and sophisticated civilization with its own rich traditions of art, literature, and trade. Persian merchants, skilled in the arts of commerce and diplomacy, become crucial intermediaries in the Silk Road network. They understand both the eastern and western ends of the trade routes, and their knowledge helps facilitate the flow of goods and ideas. Persian craftsmanship, particularly in textiles and metalwork, adds another dimension to the goods moving along the Silk Road. Persian carpets, with their intricate patterns and rich colors, become prized possessions throughout the network. Persian metalworkers create beautiful objects in bronze, silver, and gold, their techniques influencing craftsmen from China to the Mediterranean. The journey from Persia to the Middle East takes caravans through landscapes that have witnessed the rise and fall of empires. The route passes through regions where different civilizations have left their mark, creating a palimpsest of human achievement. Ancient cities like Ctesiphon and Babylon, even in their decline, remind travelers of the deep history of these lands. As caravans approach the great cities of the Middle East, they enter regions where the Silk Road network begins to connect with other major trade routes: the incense routes from Arabia, the trade networks of the Indian Ocean, and the commercial connections of the Mediterranean all converge in this region, creating a complex web of exchange. Baghdad, which becomes one of the great cities of the Islamic world, serves as a crucial hub where goods from the Silk Road meet products from Africa, India, and the Mediterranean. The city's House of Wisdom, where scholars translate and preserve texts from many different cultures, symbolizes the intellectual exchange that accompanies commercial trade. The route from Baghdad to the Mediterranean takes caravans through Syria, a region that has served as a crossroads of civilizations for thousands of years. Cities like Aleppo and Damascus develop into major commercial centers, their markets filled with goods from across the known world. The Damascus steel, famous throughout the medieval world, represents the kind of specialized craftsmanship that flourishes in these cosmopolitan trading cities. Damascus, with its location at the edge of the desert and its access to both overland and maritime routes, becomes a crucial link in the Silk Road network. The city's markets, with their covered arcades and specialized shops, create a distinctive urban environment that influences city planning throughout the region. The famous Umayyad Mosque, with its magnificent decorations, showcases the artistic synthesis that occurs in these multicultural cities. From Damascus, the final leg of the westward journey takes caravans to the ports of the Mediterranean. Cities like Antioch and Alexandria become the western terminals of the Silk Road, places where goods from China and Central Asia finally reach the markets of the Roman Empire and, later, the Byzantine Empire. Antioch, in its heyday, rivals Rome itself in size and importance. The city's position at the mouth of the Orontes River makes it a natural port for goods arriving from the east. The city's markets, fed by the Silk Road network, offer Roman consumers their first taste of exotic goods from distant lands. Chinese silk, Indian spices, and Central Asian precious stones all find eager buyers in Antioch's bustling commercial districts. The transformation of these trade routes into the Great Silk Road network happens gradually over several centuries. What begins as tentative connections between neighboring regions slowly develops into a comprehensive system of trade routes spanning the entire breadth of the Eurasian continent. The network becomes more than just a means of moving goods. It becomes a conduit for the exchange of ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. The impact of this network on the cities and regions it touches is profound. Towns that had been isolated agricultural communities suddenly find themselves at the center of international trade. Local craftsmen learn new techniques from foreign merchants. Farmers begin growing crops introduced from distant lands. The very rhythms of life change as communities adapt to serve the needs of passing caravans. The caravanserai, or roadside inn, becomes a crucial institution in this network. These establishments, spaced about a day's journey apart, provide shelter, food, and supplies for traveling merchants. More than just commercial enterprises, they become centers of cultural exchange, where travelers from different regions meet and share stories, knowledge, and customs. A typical caravanserai is built around a central courtyard, with rooms for merchants and stables for animals arranged around the perimeter. The architecture reflects local styles while incorporating features designed to serve the needs of international travelers. The buildings are sturdy and functional, designed to withstand the harsh conditions of desert and mountain travel. The evening routine at a caravanserai unfolds like a carefully choreographed dance. As the sun sets, caravans arrive, and merchants begin the process of unloading their goods and caring for their animals. The courtyard fills with the sounds of different languages as travelers from various regions settle in for the night. Meals are prepared and shared, often bringing together people who would never meet under other circumstances. These evening gatherings become crucial venues for the exchange of information. Merchants share knowledge about routes, market conditions, and political developments. They discuss new products and changing tastes in distant markets. They exchange stories about their travels and the wonders they have seen. This informal network of information becomes almost as important as the formal trade in goods. The goods that flow along the Silk Road network reflect the diverse resources and skills of the regions it connects. From China come silk, of course, but also tea, porcelain, lacquerware, and paper. The technology of papermaking, invented in China, spreads slowly westward along the trade routes, eventually reaching the Islamic world and then Europe, where it revolutionizes the recording and dissemination of knowledge. Chinese silk remains the most prized commodity throughout the network. The secret of silk production is carefully guarded by the Chinese for centuries, making silk cloth a luxury item that commands high prices in Western markets. The lustrous fabric, with its beautiful colors and smooth texture, becomes a symbol of wealth and sophistication throughout the ancient world. Tea, another Chinese export, follows a different pattern of diffusion. unlike silk, which is immediately appreciated wherever it appears, tea requires the development of new customs and tastes. The practice of tea drinking spreads slowly along the trade routes carried by merchants and travelers who have acquired the habit in China. Eventually, tea becomes popular in Central Asia and the Middle East, though it takes much longer to reach Europe. Chinese porcelain, with its delicate beauty and practical utility, finds markets throughout the Silk Road network. The secret of porcelain production, like that of silk, is closely guarded, making genuine Chinese porcelain a luxury item. Local potters in various regions attempt to imitate Chinese techniques, leading to innovations in ceramic production that enrich the artistic traditions of many cultures. From the western end of the network come goods that are equally prized in Eastern markets. Roman glassware, with its clarity and decorative beauty, amazes Chinese consumers who are accustomed to bronze and ceramic vessels. The techniques of glass-making, like those of silk production, spread slowly along the trade routes, leading to the development of local glass industries in various regions. Precious stones and metals flow in both directions along the network. Lapis lazuli from Afghanistan, jade from Central Asia, and gold from various sources all find eager buyers in distant markets. These materials are not only valued for their beauty, but also for their symbolic and religious significance in different cultures. Spices from India and Southeast Asia become some of the most valuable commodities in the network. Pepper, cinnamon, nutmeg, and other spices are worth their weight in gold in markets where they are unknown. The spice trade becomes so profitable that it influences the development of entire economic systems and leads to the exploration of new routes and regions. The animals that make the Silk Road network possible are as important as the goods they carry. Camels, perfectly adapted for desert travel, become the backbone of the system. Their ability to carry heavy loads, travel long distances without water, and navigate difficult terrain makes them indispensable to long-distance trade. The two-humped Bactrian camel, native to Central Asia, proves particularly well-suited to the varied conditions of the Silk Road. Horses, especially the famous heavenly horses of Central Asia, become another important trade commodity. Chinese emperors prize these animals for their speed and endurance, paying enormous sums to acquire them. The horse trade becomes so important that it influences diplomatic relations between China and the Central Asian kingdoms. The knowledge and skills that flow along the Silk Road network prove to be as valuable as any material goods. Agricultural techniques developed in one region spread to others, where they increase crop yields and improve food security. The cultivation of new crops introduced from distant lands diversifies local agriculture and enriches diets throughout the network. Technological innovations spread along the routes with remarkable speed. The compass, gunpowder, and printing, all invented in China, gradually make their way westward. Mathematical and astronomical knowledge from India and the Islamic world travels eastward, influencing Chinese science and philosophy. Medical knowledge, including new treatments and surgical techniques, spreads in both directions. The written word becomes a crucial vehicle for the transmission of knowledge. As paper spreads from China, it becomes easier to copy and distribute books and documents. Libraries in cities like Samarkand and Baghdad become repositories of knowledge from across the known world. Scholars travel along the trade routes, carrying books and ideas from one center of learning to another. The religious and philosophical ideas that spread along the Silk Road network have a profound impact on human civilization. Buddhism, which originates in India, spreads eastward to China and northward to Central Asia, largely through the agency of merchants and travelers on the trade routes. The religion adapts to local conditions and beliefs, creating distinctive forms of Buddhism in different regions. The spread of Buddhism along the Silk Road is facilitated by the cosmopolitan nature of the trading cities. Merchants from different cultures and religions interact daily in these urban centers, creating an atmosphere of tolerance and mutual understanding. Buddhist monasteries, established in many of these cities, serve not only religious functions, but also practical ones, providing shelter and aid to travelers. The art and architecture of Buddhism spread along the trade routes, creating a distinctive international style that can be seen in monuments from India to China. The cave temples of Dunhuang, the statues of Bamiyan, and the monasteries of Central Asia all reflect this cultural synthesis. Local artists adapt Buddhist themes to their own artistic traditions, creating works that are both universally Buddhist and distinctively regional. Christianity, too, spreads along the Silk Road network, though its impact is less dramatic than that of Buddhism. Nestorian Christians, fleeing persecution in the Byzantine Empire, establish communities in Central Asia and China. Their presence adds another dimension to the religious diversity of the Silk Road cities. Islam, which emerges in the Arabian Peninsula in the 7th century, spreads rapidly along the trade routes. The religion's emphasis on trade and commerce, combined with its message of universal brotherhood, appeals to merchants and travelers. Islamic cities like Baghdad and Samarkand become major centers of learning and culture, contributing to the intellectual flowering of the medieval world. The architectural styles that develop in the Silk Road cities reflect the mixing of different cultural traditions. The distinctive domes and minarets of Islamic architecture blend with local building techniques and materials. Chinese pagodas appear in Central Asian cities, while Persian decorative motifs influence Chinese art. This architectural synthesis creates a unique aesthetic that can be seen throughout the network. The languages of the Silk Road network become vehicles for cultural exchange. Persian, in particular, emerges as a lingua franca of trade and diplomacy, spoken from Istanbul to Delhi. Arabic, the language of the Quran, spreads with Islam and becomes a medium for scholarly communication. Chinese writing systems are adapted for local languages, while local scripts influence Chinese calligraphy. The stories and legends that emerge from the Silk Road network become part of the cultural heritage of many peoples. The adventures of Marco Polo, though they come relatively late in the network's history, capture the imagination of Europeans and help fuel interest in Asian trade. The Arabian Nights, with its tales of merchants and magical journeys, reflects the cosmopolitan culture of the Islamic trading cities. The music and literature of the Silk Road cities reflect the cultural mixing that occurs in these cosmopolitan centers. Persian poetry, with its themes of love and mysticism, influences literary traditions from Turkey to India. Musical instruments and styles spread along the trade routes, creating new forms of musical expression that blend elements from different traditions. The culinary traditions of the Silk Road network show the profound impact of cultural exchange on daily life. Noodles, possibly invented in China, spread westward and eventually reach Italy, where they become the foundation of pasta dishes. Spices from India and Southeast Asia transform the cuisines of Central Asia and the Middle East. Tea drinking, originating in China, becomes a central ritual in many cultures. The textile traditions of the Silk Road network are particularly rich and diverse. While Chinese silk remains the most prized fabric, local weavers in various regions develop their own distinctive styles and techniques. Persian carpets, Central Asian felts, and Indian cottons all find markets throughout the network. The exchange of designs and techniques leads to innovations that enrich textile traditions everywhere. The scientific and mathematical knowledge that flows along the Silk Road network contributes to advances in many fields. The decimal system, developed in India, spreads westward and eventually reaches Europe, where it revolutionizes mathematics and commerce. Chinese innovations in metallurgy and engineering spread westward, while Greek and Islamic knowledge of astronomy and medicine travels eastward. The medical traditions of different cultures merge and evolve as they spread along the trade routes. Chinese acupuncture and herbal medicine become known in the West, while Greek and Islamic medical knowledge influences practices in China and Central Asia. The exchange of medical knowledge leads to new treatments and a better understanding of human health. The geographical knowledge that accumulates through the Silk Road network gradually expands human understanding of the world. Maps become more accurate as they incorporate information from travelers and merchants. The concept of the world as a sphere of interconnected regions replaces earlier ideas of isolated continents. This expanded geographical understanding eventually contributes to the age of exploration. The economic systems that develop to support the Silk Road network become increasingly sophisticated. Banking and credit systems emerge to facilitate long-distance trade. Standardized weights and measures make commerce more efficient. The concept of bills of exchange, developed in the Islamic world, spreads along the trade routes and influences commercial practices throughout the network. The diplomatic relations between different regions are profoundly influenced by the Silk Road network. Trade connections lead to formal diplomatic exchanges as rulers seek to protect and promote commerce. The exchange of ambassadors and diplomatic gifts becomes a regular feature of international relations. Treaties and agreements governing trade help establish the legal framework for international commerce. The urban planning and architecture of Silk Road cities reflect their role as centers of international trade. Markets are carefully organized to facilitate commerce, with specialized areas for different types of goods. Caravanserais are strategically located to serve the needs of travelers. Public baths, fountains, and other amenities cater to the diverse needs of cosmopolitan populations. The environmental impact of the Silk Road network is significant, but generally positive. The introduction of new crops and agricultural techniques increases productivity and food security. The development of irrigation systems, particularly in arid regions, allows for the expansion of agriculture. The planting of trees and the creation of gardens in desert cities helps moderate local climates. The social structures of Silk Road cities become increasingly complex as they adapt to serve diverse populations. Merchant communities from different regions establish their own quarters within cities, creating a patchwork of different cultures and traditions. These communities often maintain their own customs and languages while participating in the broader urban culture. The role of women in the Silk Road network varies significantly between different cultures and regions. In some societies, women participate actively in trade and commerce, while in others they are more confined to domestic roles. The exchange of cultural ideas about gender roles and family structures influences social development throughout the network. The educational systems that develop in Silk Road cities reflect the cosmopolitan nature of these urban centers. Schools and universities attract students from across the known world, creating international centers of learning. The translation of texts from one language to another becomes a major scholarly activity, preserving and transmitting knowledge across cultural boundaries. The legal systems that govern trade and commerce in the Silk Road network become increasingly sophisticated. Commercial law develops to address the complex issues that arise in international trade. The concept of contracts and commercial agreements becomes standardized across different cultures. Dispute resolution mechanisms help maintain trust and cooperation in the network. The seasonal rhythms of the Silk Road network are dictated by climate and geography. Caravans time their journeys to avoid the harsh winters of Central Asia and the extreme heat of desert summers. The monsoon seasons affect trade routes that connect to the Indian Ocean. These natural rhythms create a pattern of activity that influences life throughout the network. The festivals and celebrations of Silk Road cities reflect the cultural diversity of their populations. Religious festivals from different traditions are celebrated side by side, creating a rich calendar of cultural events. Trade fairs and markets become occasions for cultural exchange as well as to commerce. These celebrations help maintain social cohesion in diverse urban populations. The decline of the Silk Road network begins gradually in the late medieval period, as new trade routes and technologies reduce its importance. The development of maritime routes around Africa provides a faster and cheaper way to transport goods between Asia and Europe. The rise of the Ottoman Empire disrupts some of the traditional overland routes. Political instability in Central Asia makes travel more dangerous and expensive. The discovery of the Americas and the development of Atlantic trade routes shifts the focus of European commerce away from Asia. The colonization of the Americas provides new sources of precious metals and agricultural products, reducing demand for Asian goods. The development of European manufacturing reduces the need for Asian textiles and crafts. The technological innovations that emerge in the early modern period, particularly in navigation and shipbuilding, make maritime trade more efficient and reliable. The compass, originally a Chinese invention that spread along the Silk Road, now enables European sailors to navigate oceanic routes. The printing press, another technology that spread along the land routes, now facilitates the rapid dissemination of geographical knowledge. The rise of European colonial powers in Asia creates new political and economic structures that bypass the traditional Silk Road network. European trading companies establish direct connections with Asian producers, eliminating the need for Central Asian intermediaries. The colonization of India and Southeast Asia brings these regions under European control, further disrupting traditional trade patterns. The political changes that occur in Central Asia and the Middle East also contribute to the decline of the Silk Road network. The fragmentation of large empires into smaller states increases the cost and complexity of overland trade. The rise of new dynasties and the fall of old ones creates uncertainty and instability that discourages long-distance commerce. Despite its decline as a major commercial network, the Silk Road continues to influence cultural and intellectual exchange. The connections established over centuries of trade continue to facilitate the movement of ideas and knowledge. The cities that grew rich from Silk Road commerce remain important centers of learning and culture. The traditions of tolerance and cosmopolitanism that developed in these cities continue to influence their character. The archaeological evidence of the Silk Road network continues to emerge from excavations throughout Central Asia and the Middle East. Ancient cities, buried by sand and time, are gradually revealing their secrets. The objects found in these excavations tell the story of a vast network of human connection that spanned continents and cultures. In the ruins of Palmyra, archaeologists have uncovered evidence of the sophisticated trading systems that once flourished there. Carved inscriptions in multiple languages speak of merchant families who maintained trading posts across the known world. Coins from China, India, Rome, and Persia, found in the same archaeological layers, demonstrate the truly international nature of the commerce that once flowed through this desert city. The preserved documents found in the caves of Dunhuang provide an extraordinary window into the daily life of the Silk Road. Letters from merchants to their families, contracts for the sale of goods, and inventories of caravans reveal the human dimension of this great network. These documents, written in multiple languages and scripts, show how people from different cultures found ways to communicate and conduct business across vast distances. The art objects discovered in Silk Road sites tell stories of cultural fusion and artistic innovation. Buddhist sculptures with Greek features, Persian textiles with Chinese motifs, and Islamic metalwork incorporating Indian designs all demonstrate the creative synthesis that occurred when different artistic traditions came into contact. These objects are not merely historical artifacts, but testimonies to the human capacity for cultural adaptation and creative exchange. The musical instruments found in Silk Road archaeological sites reveal another dimension of cultural exchange. Stringed instruments that show influences from both East and West, wind instruments that combine different cultural traditions, and percussion instruments that traveled thousands of miles all speak to the role of music in creating connections between peoples. The evening entertainment in caravanserais must have been a remarkable blend of different musical traditions. The preserved textiles from Silk Road sites are particularly precious because they demonstrate the technological and artistic achievements of different cultures. Silk fabrics with intricate patterns, woolen textiles with complex weaves, and cotton goods with sophisticated dyeing techniques all show the high level of craftsmanship that existed throughout the network. These textiles were not merely trade goods, but expressions of cultural identity and artistic vision. The architectural remains of Silk Road cities reveal the sophisticated urban planning that developed to serve international trade. The layout of markets, the design of caravanserais, and the construction of public buildings all show how cities adapted to serve diverse populations. The remnants of water management systems, particularly in desert cities, demonstrate the engineering skills that made urban life possible in challenging environments. The religious monuments found throughout the Silk Road network tell the story of the spread of world religions and their adaptation to local conditions. Buddhist cave temples, Islamic mosques, Christian churches, and Zoroastrian fire temples sometimes coexist in the same cities, reflecting the religious tolerance that was necessary for successful trade. The artwork in these monuments often combines religious themes with local artistic traditions, creating unique expressions of faith. The cemetery sites along the Silk Road provide evidence of the diverse populations that lived in these trading cities. Burial practices that combine elements from different cultures, grave goods that include objects from many different regions, and inscriptions in multiple languages all demonstrate the cosmopolitan nature of these communities. These sites remind us that the Silk Road wasn't just about the movement of goods, but about the lives of real people who made their homes in these international cities. The scientific instruments found in Silk Road archaeological sites reveal the level of technological sophistication that existed in these trading cities. Astrolabes, compasses, mathematical instruments, and medical tools all show how scientific knowledge spread along the trade routes. The observatories and libraries of cities like Samarkand and Baghdad were centers of learning that attracted scholars from across the known world. The coins discovered in Silk Road sites provide evidence of the monetary systems that developed to facilitate international trade. Coins from different kingdoms and empires found together in the same archaeological contexts show how different monetary systems coexisted and interacted. The designs on these coins, often featuring symbols and inscriptions from multiple cultures, reflect the cosmopolitan nature of Silk Road commerce. The agricultural evidence from Silk Road sites tells the story of how new crops and farming techniques spread across continents. The remains of plants that were clearly not native to their archaeological contexts demonstrate how agricultural innovation followed the trade routes. The introduction of new crops often transformed local economies and diets, creating lasting changes that persisted long after the decline of the trade network. The workshop areas found in Silk Road cities reveal the manufacturing processes that supplied goods for long-distance trade. The remains of silk-weaving establishments, metalworking shops, pottery kilns, and glass-making facilities all show how local craftsmen adapted their techniques to serve international markets. These workshops were often located in specific quarters of cities, creating specialized industrial districts. The storage facilities found in Silk Road sites demonstrate the logistical challenges of long-distance trade. Large warehouses, granaries, and specialized storage areas for different types of goods show how cities managed the flow of commerce. The remains of these facilities reveal the sophisticated understanding of preservation and inventory management that was necessary for successful trade. The diplomatic correspondence found in Silk Road archaeological sites provides insight into the political dimensions of the trade network. Letters between rulers, diplomatic gifts, and treaty documents all show how political relationships were shaped by commercial interests. The multilingual nature of these documents demonstrates the diplomatic skills that were necessary to maintain peaceful trade relations across cultural boundaries. The personal belongings found in Silk Road sites reveal the daily life of the people who lived and worked in these international cities. Household objects, clothing, jewelry, and personal tools all show how people adapted to life in cosmopolitan urban environments. These objects often combine elements from different cultures, reflecting the personal synthesis that occurred when people from different backgrounds lived together. The harbour and transportation infrastructure found in Silk Road sites show how cities adapted to serve the needs of long-distance trade. The remains of caravanserais, stables, repair shops, and loading areas all demonstrate the sophisticated logistics that were necessary to support the movement of goods across continents. These facilities were often built to accommodate the specific needs of different types of transport animals and vehicles. The educational institutions found in Silk Road cities reveal the role of learning in facilitating cultural exchange. The remains of schools, libraries, and scriptoriums all show how knowledge was preserved and transmitted across cultural boundaries. The multilingual inscriptions and documents found in these institutions demonstrate the scholarly collaboration that existed throughout the network. The medical facilities found in Silk Road sites provide evidence of the healthcare systems that developed to serve diverse populations. Hospitals, pharmacies, and medical schools all show how different medical traditions came together to create new approaches to healing. The medical instruments and pharmaceutical remains found in these sites demonstrate the sophisticated understanding of health and disease that existed in these cosmopolitan cities. The entertainment facilities found in Silk Road cities reveal the cultural life that flourished in these international urban centers. The remains of theaters, music halls, and public gathering places all show how people from different cultures came together for recreation and celebration. These facilities often incorporated architectural and decorative elements from multiple traditions, creating unique cultural spaces. The legal documents found in Silk Road sites provide insight into the commercial law that governed international trade. Contracts, legal codes, and court records all show how different legal systems adapted to handle the complex issues that arose in cross-cultural commerce. The multilingual nature of these documents demonstrates the linguistic skills that were necessary for successful trade. The technological innovations preserved in Silk Road archaeological sites tell the story of how knowledge spread across continents. The remains of printing presses, paper mills, and other technological facilities show how innovations moved from one culture to another. The tools and equipment found in these sites often show influences from multiple traditions, demonstrating the collaborative nature of technological development. The environmental evidence from Silk Road sites reveals how human activity affected the natural world. The remains of irrigation systems, agricultural terraces, and reforestation projects all show how people modified their environment to support trade and urban life. The pollen and other biological evidence found in these sites help reconstruct the changing landscapes that supported the Silk Road network. The social institutions found in Silk Road cities demonstrate the complex societies that developed to serve international trade. The remains of guild halls, community centers, and ethnic quarters all show how different groups organized themselves within cosmopolitan urban environments. These institutions often combined elements from different cultural traditions, creating new forms of social organization. The artistic workshops found in Silk Road sites reveal the creative processes that produced the cultural synthesis characteristic of these cities. The remains of sculpture studios, painting workshops, and textile design centers all show how artists from different traditions collaborated to create new forms of artistic expression. The tools and materials found in these workshops often come from many different regions, demonstrating the international nature of artistic production. The financial institutions found in Silk Road cities provide evidence of the sophisticated banking systems that developed to support long-distance trade. The remains of banking houses, currency exchanges, and credit facilities all show how different monetary systems were integrated to facilitate commerce. The documents and records found in these institutions demonstrate the complex financial arrangements that made international trade possible. The food processing facilities found in Silk Road sites reveal the culinary exchanges that occurred along the trade routes. The remains of spice processing workshops, food storage facilities, and specialized cooking areas all show how different culinary traditions came together to create new forms of cuisine. The cooking implements and food remains found in these sites demonstrate the international nature of food culture in these cities. The transportation services found in Silk Road cities show how urban centers adapted to serve the needs of long-distance travelers. The remains of guide services, interpreter facilities, and travel agencies all demonstrate the sophisticated support systems that developed to help merchants navigate the complexities of international trade. These services often required knowledge of multiple languages and cultures. The communication systems found in Silk Road sites reveal how information traveled along the trade routes. The remains of postal services, messenger systems, and communication networks all show how news and information were transmitted across vast distances. The documents and inscriptions found in these systems demonstrate the multilingual nature of long-distance communication. The insurance and security systems found in Silk Road cities provide evidence of the measures taken to protect valuable goods and travelers. The remains of security services, guard posts, and insurance facilities all show how risks were managed in long-distance trade. The documents and records found in these systems demonstrate the sophisticated understanding of risk management that existed in these commercial networks. The seasonal patterns revealed in Silk Road archaeological sites show how the network adapted to natural rhythms and climatic conditions. The evidence of seasonal storage facilities, weather protection systems, and calendar-based activities all demonstrate how people worked with natural cycles to maximize the efficiency of long-distance trade. These patterns often incorporated knowledge from multiple cultural traditions about weather and climate. The festival and celebration sites found in Silk Road cities reveal the cultural events that brought diverse populations together. The remains of festival grounds, celebration halls, and ceremonial spaces all show how different cultural traditions were celebrated in cosmopolitan urban environments. These sites often combined architectural and decorative elements from multiple cultures, creating unique spaces for cultural expression. The diplomatic quarters found in Silk Road cities demonstrate the international nature of these urban centers. The remains of embassy buildings, diplomatic residences, and treaty negotiation facilities all show how different governments maintained representation in these important commercial centers. The artifacts found in these quarters often include diplomatic gifts and ceremonial objects from many different cultures. The intellectual exchanges that occurred in Silk Road cities are evidenced by the scholarly institutions found in archaeological sites. The remains of debate halls, research facilities, and scholarly residences all show how knowledge was shared across cultural boundaries. The books, manuscripts, and scholarly instruments found in these sites demonstrate the international nature of intellectual life in these cities. The technological transfer that occurred along the Silk Road is evidenced by the workshop remains found in archaeological sites. The tools, equipment, and technical drawings found in these workshops often show influences from multiple traditions, demonstrating how technical knowledge spread across cultures. The products of these workshops often combined techniques from different regions, creating new forms of technology. The linguistic evidence from Silk Road sites reveals the multilingual nature of these international cities. The inscriptions, documents, and linguistic artifacts found in these sites demonstrate how different languages coexisted and influenced each other. The development of pidgin languages and translation practices shows how people overcame language barriers to conduct business and share ideas. The medical knowledge that spread along the Silk Road is evidenced by the healthcare facilities found in archaeological sites. The medical instruments, pharmaceutical remains, and hospital facilities found in these sites show how different medical traditions came together to create new approaches to healing. The medical texts and prescriptions found in these sites demonstrate the international nature of medical knowledge. The agricultural innovations that spread along the Silk Road are evidenced by the farming remains found in archaeological sites. The irrigation systems, crop remains, and agricultural tools found in these sites show how new farming techniques and crops were introduced to different regions. The transformation of local agriculture often had lasting effects that persisted long after the decline of the trade network. The maritime connections of the Silk Road are evidenced by the port facilities found in archaeological sites. The harbours, shipyards, and maritime trading facilities found in these sites show how overland routes connected with sea-based trade networks. The ships and navigation equipment found in these sites demonstrate the technological sophistication of maritime trade. The urban planning innovations that developed in Silk Road cities are evidenced by the city layouts found in archaeological sites. The street patterns, zoning systems, and public spaces found in these sites show how cities adapted to serve diverse populations engaged in international trade. The sophisticated urban design often incorporated elements from multiple cultural traditions. The artisan communities that flourished in Silk Road cities are evidenced by the craft quarters found in archaeological sites. The workshops, residential areas, and guild facilities found in these sites show how skilled craftsmen organized themselves to serve international markets. The products of these communities often combined techniques and designs from multiple cultural traditions. The women's roles in the Silk Road network are evidenced by the gender-specific artifacts found in archaeological sites. The women's quarters, craft workshops, and burial sites found in these excavations show how women participated in the economic and cultural life of these international cities. The artifacts associated with women often demonstrate their involvement in trade and cultural exchange. The children's lives in Silk Road cities are evidenced by the educational and recreational facilities found in archaeological sites. The schools, playgrounds, and children's quarters found in these sites show how young people were raised in cosmopolitan urban environments. The toys, games, and educational materials found in these sites often reflect influences from multiple cultures. The elderly care systems that developed in Silk Road cities are evidenced by the specialized facilities found in archaeological sites. The retirement homes, medical facilities, and support services found in these sites show how aging populations were cared for in international urban centers. These systems often combined care practices from different cultural traditions. The environmental management systems that developed in Silk Road cities are evidenced by the infrastructure found in archaeological sites. The waste management systems, water treatment facilities, and environmental monitoring systems found in these sites show how cities managed the environmental challenges of supporting large, diverse populations. These systems often incorporated knowledge from multiple cultural traditions. The cultural preservation efforts that occurred in Silk Road cities are evidenced by the libraries and archives found in archaeological sites. The book collections, manuscript repositories, and cultural preservation facilities found in these sites show how different cultural traditions were maintained and transmitted in cosmopolitan urban environments. These efforts often involved collaboration between scholars from different traditions. The conflict resolution systems that developed in Silk Road cities are evidenced by the legal and administrative facilities found in archaeological sites. The courts, mediation centers, and legal archives found in these sites show how disputes were resolved in diverse urban populations. These systems often incorporated legal traditions from multiple cultures. The economic planning systems that developed in Silk Road cities are evidenced by the administrative facilities found in archaeological sites. The planning offices, economic records, and regulatory systems found in these sites show how cities managed the complex economic activities of international trade. These systems often incorporated economic practices from multiple cultural traditions. The social welfare systems that developed in Silk Road cities are evidenced by the charitable institutions found in archaeological sites. The hospitals, orphanages, and poverty relief facilities found in these sites show how cities cared for vulnerable populations in cosmopolitan urban environments. These systems often combined charitable practices from different cultural traditions. The entertainment industries that flourished in Silk Road cities are evidenced by the performance venues found in archaeological sites. The theatres, music halls and sports facilities found in these sites show how people from different cultures came together for recreation and cultural expression. These venues often incorporated performance traditions from multiple cultures. The transportation networks that connected Silk Road cities are evidenced by the infrastructure found in archaeological sites. The roads, bridges, and transportation facilities found in these sites show how cities were connected to the broader trade network. The sophisticated engineering often incorporated techniques from multiple cultural traditions. The information systems that developed in Silk Road cities are evidenced by the communication facilities found in archaeological sites. The libraries, scriptoriums, and information centers found in these sites show how knowledge was collected, preserved, and disseminated in cosmopolitan urban environments. These systems often incorporated information practices from multiple cultural traditions. The spiritual life that flourished in Silk Road cities is evidenced by the religious facilities found in archaeological sites. The temples, monasteries, and spiritual centers found in these sites show how different religious traditions coexisted and influenced each other in cosmopolitan urban environments. These facilities often combined architectural and decorative elements from multiple traditions. The legacy of the Silk Road network continues to influence the modern world in countless ways. The cities that grew rich from Silk Road trade remain important centers of culture and commerce. The traditions of tolerance and cosmopolitanism that developed in these cities continue to shape their character. The technological innovations that spread along the trade routes continue to influence human development. The modern revival of interest in the Silk Road reflects a recognition of its historical importance and its potential relevance to contemporary issues. The concept of connectivity and cultural exchange that characterized the ancient network resonates with modern ideas about globalization and international cooperation. The lessons learned from the Silk Road about managing diversity and facilitating peaceful exchange remain relevant today. The archaeological study of the Silk Road network continues to yield new discoveries and insights. Each excavation adds to our understanding of how this vast network functioned and how it influenced human civilization. The preservation of Silk Road sites has become an international priority, recognizing their importance to world heritage. The cultural influences of the Silk Road network continue to be felt in the arts, literature, and popular culture of many countries. The stories and legends associated with trade routes continue to inspire writers and artists. The aesthetic traditions that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary design and architecture. The economic principles that governed the Silk Road network continue to offer lessons for modern international trade. The emphasis on mutual benefit, the importance of cultural understanding, and the need for stable institutions all remain relevant to contemporary commerce. The Silk Road demonstrates that successful long-distance trade requires more than just the movement of goods. It requires the building of relationships and the creation of trust. The environmental lessons of the Silk Road network remain relevant to contemporary discussions about sustainability and resource management. The ways in which Silk Road cities managed scarce resources, particularly water in arid regions, offer insights for modern urban planning. The agricultural innovations that spread along the trade routes continue to influence farming practices today. The social innovations that developed in Silk Road cities offer models for managing diversity in contemporary urban environments. The ways in which different cultural groups coexisted and collaborated in these ancient cities provide examples for modern multicultural societies. The institutions that developed to serve diverse populations offer insights for contemporary urban planning and social policy. The technological innovations that spread along the Silk Road network continue to influence modern development. The printing press, the compass, and gunpowder all had their origins in technologies that spread along the trade routes. The collaborative approach to innovation that characterized the Silk Road offers lessons for contemporary research and development. The diplomatic principles that governed relationships between Silk Road cities and regions offer insights for contemporary international relations. The emphasis on mutual benefit, the importance of cultural understanding, and the need for stable institutions all remain relevant to modern diplomacy. The Silk Road demonstrates that successful international relationships require more than just political agreements. They require the building of cultural connections and economic interdependence. The educational innovations that developed in Silk Road cities offer models for contemporary international education. The multilingual schools, the international exchanges, and the collaborative research projects that characterized these cities provide examples for modern educational institutions. The emphasis on cross-cultural understanding and the sharing of knowledge remains relevant to contemporary education. The medical innovations that spread along the Silk Road network continue to influence modern healthcare. The integration of different medical traditions, the emphasis on preventive care, and the development of international medical exchanges all offer lessons for contemporary medical practice. The collaborative approach to medical research that characterized the Silk Road offers insights for modern medical development. The artistic innovations that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary art and design. The fusion of different artistic traditions, the emphasis on cultural synthesis, and the development of international artistic exchanges all offer models for contemporary artistic practice. The aesthetic principles that developed in these cities continue to influence contemporary design and architecture. The literary traditions that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary literature. The multilingual literary culture, the emphasis on cross-cultural themes, and the development of international literary exchanges all offer models for contemporary writers. The stories and legends associated with the trade routes continue to inspire contemporary literature and popular culture. The musical traditions that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary music. The fusion of different musical traditions, the emphasis on cultural synthesis, and the development of international musical exchanges all offer models for contemporary musicians. The musical instruments and styles that developed in these cities continue to influence contemporary music. The culinary traditions that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary cuisine. The fusion of different culinary traditions, the emphasis on cultural synthesis, and the development of international culinary exchanges all offer models for contemporary chefs. The spices and cooking techniques that spread along the trade routes continue to influence contemporary cooking. The philosophical traditions that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary thought. The integration of different philosophical traditions, the emphasis on cross-cultural dialogue, and the development of international philosophical exchanges all offer models for contemporary philosophers. The ideas and concepts that developed in these cities continue to influence contemporary philosophy and ethics. The religious traditions that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary spirituality. The integration of different religious traditions, the emphasis on tolerance and understanding, and the development of international religious exchanges all offer models for contemporary religious practice. The spiritual innovations that developed in these cities continue to influence contemporary spirituality. The urban planning innovations that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary city design. The emphasis on serving diverse populations, the integration of different architectural traditions, and the development of international urban planning principles all offer models for contemporary urban planners. The cities that grew from Silk Road trade continue to influence contemporary urban development. The environmental management innovations that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary environmental policy. The emphasis on sustainable resource use, the integration of different environmental traditions, and the development of international environmental cooperation all offer models for contemporary environmental management. The water management systems that developed in these cities continue to influence contemporary environmental planning. The social welfare innovations that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary social policy. The emphasis on caring for diverse populations, the integration of different social traditions, and the development of international social cooperation all offer models for contemporary social welfare systems. The charitable institutions that developed in these cities continue to influence contemporary social services. The financial innovations that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary banking and finance. The emphasis on facilitating international trade, the integration of different monetary systems, and the development of international financial cooperation all offer models for contemporary financial institutions. The banking systems that developed in these cities continue to influence contemporary finance. The legal innovations that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary international law. The emphasis on governing cross-cultural commerce, the integrations of different legal traditions, and the development of international legal cooperation all offer models for contemporary legal systems. The commercial law that developed in these cities continues to influence contemporary business law. The communication innovations that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary information systems. The emphasis on facilitating cross-cultural communication, the integration of different communication traditions, and the development of international communication networks all offer models for contemporary information technology. The communication systems that developed in these cities continue to influence contemporary media and communications. The transportation innovations that developed in Silk Road cities continue to influence contemporary logistics and transportation. The emphasis on facilitating long-distance trade, the integration of different transportation traditions, and the development of international transportation networks all offer models for contemporary logistics systems. The transportation systems that developed in these cities continue to influence contemporary transportation planning. As we reach the end of our journey along the ancient Silk Road, we find ourselves in a place of quiet reflection. The network of trade routes that once connected the ancient world has long since faded into memory, but its influence continues to shape our world in countless ways. The cities that once bustled with international commerce now stand as monuments to the human capacity for cooperation and cultural exchange. The lessons of the Silk Road speak to us across the centuries with a message of hope and possibility. They remind us that different cultures can coexist and enrich each other, that trade and commerce can be forces for peace and understanding, and that the sharing of knowledge and ideas can benefit all humanity. The ancient merchants who carried goods across continents also carried with them the seeds of a more connected and cosmopolitan world. The gentle rhythm of camel bells that once marked the passage of caravans across the desert may have long since faded, but the spirit of adventure and discovery that drove those ancient traders continues to inspire us today. The Silk Road reminds us that the world is vast and full of wonders, that there are always new places to explore and new people to meet, and that the journey itself is often more important than the destination. As you drift off to sleep tonight, let yourself imagine the ancient caravans moving slowly across the starlit deserts, their bells creating a gentle melody that seems to echo through time itself. Picture the oasis cities with their palm trees and flowing water, their markets filled with goods from across the known world, their people representing dozens of different cultures and languages. Feel the sense of wonder and possibility that must have filled the hearts of those ancient travelers as they set out on journeys that would take them to the very edges of the known world. The Silk Road was more than just a network of trade routes. It was a testament to the human spirit of exploration and discovery. It showed that people from vastly different backgrounds could find common ground in their shared humanity, that the desire to learn and grow and connect with others transcends all cultural boundaries. The ancient traders who followed these routes were not just merchants. They were ambassadors of human civilization, carrying with them the hopes and dreams of their peoples. Let the story of the Silk Road carry you gently into sleep, its message of connection and understanding wrapping around you like the finest silk. dream of ancient cities where different cultures blended harmoniously, of caravans crossing vast deserts under starlit skies, of the gentle sounds of different languages mingling in busy marketplaces. Let yourself be carried away on the rhythm of the ancient trade routes, where every journey was an adventure, and every destination held the promise of new discoveries. The Silk Road reminds us that the world is interconnected in ways both seen and unseen, that the actions of people in one place can have effects that ripple across continents and centuries. The ancient merchants who carried goods along these routes could never have imagined that their activities would help shape the course of human civilization. Yet their patient work of building connections and fostering understanding helped create the world we know today. In the quiet of the night, as you settle into sleep, let yourself be transported back to those ancient times when the world was young and full of mysteries waiting to be discovered. Let the story of the Silk Road remind you that every journey begins with a single step, that every great achievement starts with someone willing to venture into the unknown, and that the greatest treasures are often found not in gold or silk, but in the connections we make with our fellow human beings. The ancient Silk Road may have faded into history, but its spirit lives on in every act of cultural exchange, every moment of understanding between different peoples, every instance of cooperation across boundaries. As you drift off to sleep, carry with you the gentle wisdom of those ancient roots, the knowledge that we are all connected in the great tapestry of human experience, and the hope that the future holds even greater opportunities for understanding and cooperation. Sweet dreams, and may your sleep be filled with the gentle sounds of ancient caravans and the peaceful rhythm of the eternal Silk Road, where east meets west in harmony and understanding, where different cultures blend like silk threads in a beautiful tapestry, and where the journey itself becomes the destination. The ancient roots may have grown quiet, but their message of connection and hope continues to echo through the ages, reminding us that we are all travelers on the same great journey of human discovery and understanding. Rest well, and let the spirit of the Silk Road carry you gently through the night, its ancient wisdom whispering that the greatest journeys are those that bring us closer to one another, and that the most valuable cargo we can carry is the understanding that despite our differences, we all share the same hopes, dreams, and aspirations for a better world. The Silk Road teaches us that distance is just a number, that time is just a concept, and that the human spirit of exploration and discovery is eternal and unbreakable. Sleep peacefully, knowing that you too are part of this great continuing story of human connection and cultural exchange, and that every new day brings fresh opportunities to build bridges of understanding across the vast landscapes of human experience. The ancient Silk Road may have been a network of the trade routes, but its true legacy is the reminder that we are all citizens of the same world, all participants in the same great adventure of human civilization. May your dreams be filled with the gentle beauty of ancient oases, the soft tinkling of camel bells, and the warm hospitality of peoples from across the ancient world, all united in the common enterprise of trade, discovery, and mutual understanding. The Silk Road was not just a highway for goods, but a pathway for the human spirit, and its message continues to inspire us to reach across differences and build connections that transcend all boundaries. Good night, and may the ancient wisdom of the Silk Road guide you to peaceful sleep and pleasant dreams, where East and West meet in harmony, where different cultures dance together in perfect synchronization, and where the eternal human journey of discovery and understanding continues under the same stars that guided the ancient caravans across the vast and beautiful landscapes of our shared world.